What if the secret to a stylish home isn't about following more design rules? It's about breaking the right ones. Have you looked for design advice and followed the design rules you were given, but your room still feels off or it just simply doesn't feel like you? If that's you, then you've got to watch this video because I'm sharing with you 5 interior design rules that are secretly ruining your home. My name's Carrie. I'm a designer and founder of the blog Penny Modern, bringing you affordable modern home decor since 2019. And I have gathered up insights from top designers as well as major publications to bring you these design rules that you should definitely break. Make sure you stay around till the end because I'm going to give you one interior design rule that nobody talks about, but is a complete game changer. This first one seems pretty harmless, and we've definitely all done this. And that is when you center your coffee table, you center your rug, you center the artwork, maybe you center your couch in the middle of the wall. And it's really, the rule is thou shalt center everything. Centering items in a room definitely feels safe. It feels very symmetrical, and we do love symmetry, but it also can just feel a little bit boring. When everything is perfectly centered in a room, it can make the room feel a little bit boring, a little bit flat, a little bit too perfect. There's really nothing unexpected in it, and that's the problem with just centering absolutely everything in your room. Let's say you had a couch that you centered on the wall, but you ignored the flow of the room and the natural walkways through the room. That really would make the room, in the terms of how you use it in your everyday life, just feel awkward. Breaking the flow of room, meaning like kind of the flow of traffic and how you actually live in the room, can make the room feel awkward and you don't even know why it's happening. We all want our homes to feel very effortless and intuitive, but if you center everything in your room, it's going to feel staged and it'll make a forced awkwardness to your room. Therefore, this is definitely a rule you should consider breaking when you need to. For me, I like to do things where you definitely want to change your layout of your furniture to how the flow is and how you're going to use the room in terms of your walkways and also your art. So this art piece here, I do not have centered. It's basically on the side, the third of the wall over here. And I did that because I didn't want it just in the middle and it's this huge wall because it's not really a big enough art piece. So I decided to do a little bit of an off-center arrangement, and I think it really works. This one on this side is definitely centered in that wall, but this one's not centered. I feel like it gives it a little bit less of a staged look and a little bit more of an unexpected lived-in look. The other thing you can do is choosing some asymmetrical places to hang your lighting. So for example, if you have a dining room, you don't necessarily always want to put the chandelier over your dining table in the exact center of the room. You definitely want to hang it more where your table is actually going to sit. And the other thing is around your rug placement. So a lot of people have these open concept great rooms or a dining and living room, and you're wondering how you should put your rug. You definitely want to do your rug according to the seating area and not necessarily in the kind of geographic center of the room. For example, for my rug here, I do not have it perfectly in the center. I have it where the seating area is because I have a walkway next to it that I don't want everybody trampling on my rug. Good design is more about your feeling and the flow and how you actually use the room, not necessarily about a formula or a rule to use. So just realize you can definitely break the centering rule and do things a little off-center or asymmetrical to add a little bit of your own personality to your home. If centering and not doing a perfectly symmetrical room seemed a little controversial, this next one is going to completely flip how you think about color on its head. This is one of the most repeated design rules out there, and it is thou shalt paint small rooms light colors. And technically, yes, Light colors definitely reflect and bounce more light around the room, where dark colors are going to absorb a lot of light. That is definitely true. But here is the truth that nobody really wants to tell you, and that is that not every room needs to feel bigger. Some rooms are meant to be cozy, moody, and dramatic. And if you paint every single room white or light gray, you're stripping away a lot of character out of your home. Here's something that a lot of people don't realize. If you paint a very small room that doesn't have a lot of light, a white color, a lot of times it can look dingy and a little bit dirty. And instead of opening up a room, it just washes everything out. By painting a room a darker color, especially a bathroom, a den, a study, a movie room, it can add a ton of depth and character, and sometimes it can make the room feel taller, especially if you paint your baseboards and your trim the same exact color. You don't want to have a white trim on a moody dark wall. And doing this, you can visually enlarge your space, making it look taller and giving the room a lot of mood and a lot of character. Now imagine this for a second. You have a powder room or a reading nook and you have painted it a deep plum color. Now picture that same room in beige. Which one feels more intentional? And which one tells more of a story and feels more cozy and like a cocoon almost? You can use dark paint to create an intimate feeling in those small spaces, and that's nothing to be afraid of or embarrassed of. It can be something that just means, yeah, maybe it feels a little bit smaller, but it's like a cocoon and it's very welcoming and cozy instead of being dark and dingy. You can balance out the darkness of the paint on the walls with reflective finishes. So you can get mirrors that have beautiful shiny frames. You also can use different types of lighting that have a metallic finish on them, and adding those metallic accents is going to help bounce the light around. And then in addition, you want to make sure you have a good lighting plan for your room so it doesn't feel too dark. Remember, you need 3 types of lighting in a room. You need your can lights, or like your ambient lighting. You need task lighting for specific tasks. And then you can use accent lighting to add even more depth to your room. How about you? Would you paint a smaller room, a navy, or maybe a deep green, or even a black? Let me know down in the comments below what you have tried in terms of darker colors in some of your rooms. Let's talk about it. This next one is something that you have never even questioned, most likely, because it seems so official and just like a rule that you must follow no matter what. But this can be quietly ruining your walls. And this one sounds legit. It even has numbers attached. That's how official this rule sounds. And it is, you must hang artwork between 57 to 60 inches from the floor at eye level. But whose eye level are we talking about exactly? Maybe there's a family that are 6'2", 6'5", 7 foot. Maybe there's somebody else that's sitting down. That's not gonna be at their eye level. Or maybe there's a family with a ton of small children. So this rule is just a little bit too rigid. And here's why it doesn't really work in most homes. It ignores furniture height. It fails to connect the artwork with the rest of the room. And it often leaves your walls looking oddly spaced and strangely unfinished. An interior designer, Celeste Jackson, says that you don't want art to feel disconnected by hanging it too high. Here is a better approach to hanging your art than following this very rigid rule of hanging it at eye level. So you want to treat your art like it's part of a composition, which is the entire room, right? You need to consider the height of your furniture, the entire wall that it's on, what else is in the room, and all of those other things. You definitely want to try to hang your art about 6 to 8 inches above your furniture that you have right under it. That is a good rule of thumb versus using this arbitrary at eye level. So this one is probably a little bit low, and it's actually, I'm covering some kind of outlet in the back there, but I did hang it basically about 6-7 inches above my couch, and that's a good rule of thumb for you to use as well. And if you're building a gallery wall, a great idea is to actually lay it out on the floor or maybe even on an app like Canva or PowerPoint. And that way you can make the gallery wall seem balanced, not just symmetrical. You can create a group and have them different size, but you just need to have them balanced. They don't have to be exactly the same on each side of the gallery wall. And I would say when you're hanging art at eye level, you can use the actual people in your home, not some arbitrary number that you heard here on YouTube. You definitely want your art to feel intentional, as well as like it tells a story and shows some personality and who you are. And it shouldn't just be something that's floating and stuck on the wall 57 to 60 inches off the floor. You need it to be part of the entire look of your room. And next up is the curtain rule that you have been following probably your entire life, but I'm gonna show you why it might be the reason that your room looks unfinished. If you're watching this because you're thinking about doing a room makeover or maybe even some kind of a remodel, I have a great free resource for you. It's my room makeover planner and checklist. And this is an easy little worksheet that you can download and print out, and you can basically, it'll help you figure out what you want to keep, what you need to get. It'll help you build a budget, and it even has a place to plan your layout. So download your copy for free at pennymodern.com/freebies, and that link is down in the description. Okay, let's talk curtains. You've probably heard this rule before: thou shalt have neutral curtains. And that is because they are timeless and they'll literally go with everything. Yes, neutral tones can definitely work. I have neutral curtains in my home as well, but I love me a neutral color palette, and that is my color palette throughout my entire home. They're definitely a safe choice, but safe can sometimes be forgettable. Curtains can be one of the biggest surface areas of your room if you really think about it. And they are also, some of them are very inexpensive. These are from IKEA and they are only about $30 a panel. And so it is something that you can change out over time if your style changes or maybe other style changes, and it can be a way to infuse a lot of personality, tell a story, and take a few chances in your room. If you have a completely neutral room, using some curtains that add some excitement are a way to really pull everything together. And they're also a way to make a very bold statement on something that can be easily changed over time. And here is why neutral colored curtains can actually ruin your room and just make it feel boring and flat. They can just make a room feel very cold and unfinished. They often can just blend into the background, which is the point of me having these curtains here. I don't really want to make a statement. I do want them to blend into the background, and I actually want them to dampen noise because I do film a lot of videos in here. But don't just take my word for it. Here is what Style at Home said. Don't discount a benefit of having a pattern curtain. They inject fun and lightness, and they also can drive home theme or a design plan. Imagine a deep navy, maybe even a velvet curtain in a very minimalist room. It helps give you that richness and texture that room otherwise might be lacking. Or think about a warm terracotta or dark beige linen curtain on the stark white walls of a boho-inspired retreat. Suddenly, your whole room is gonna feel elevated, luxurious, as well as very intentional when you add that unexpected twist of some unique curtains. Here's some ideas to avoid the neutral curtain trap, and you can do things like using an accent color in your room. So if you have some bold accent colors for other items in your room, you can pick one of those for your curtain color. You also could try to choose a pattern or maybe a stripe or a floral. Again, pulling out some of the colors from your room and putting that into those curtain patterns. If you are getting value from this video so far, make sure you hit that like button because that'll make other people just like you able to find this video. This next room, you may not even know that you're following it, but it could be the thing that's holding the epic design of your dreams back. Here's the thing. We've been taught to pick an interior design style and use that and pick that and only use that when you're designing a room. You're either modern, or maybe you're boho, or maybe you're organic modern or farmhouse. You take your quiz, take your label, and you stick with it, and that's the plan. But real homes aren't that simple, and neither are you. This rule of thou shalt stick with one interior design style was made for catalogs and showrooms. It wasn't made for real people who have their real story and they've collected items from real over time, maybe even inherited furniture that they want to incorporate into their design plan. Here's what actually happens when you pick just one design style and rigidly use it throughout the entire room. Your room feels a little bit flat. You also lose a lot of your personality, and more importantly, it gets boring real fast. Interior designer Sophie Ashby puts it best. There are no rules. I like mixing and matching different patterns. I call it happy clashing. When it's done well, mixing different types of interior design styles can definitely make your room feel more collected, and it also can show your personality and it looks less like a showroom. Here's what you can do if you're going to be mixing and matching styles. You can pick a common thread. So that could be maybe a color that you're using with your different pieces. So I definitely have a color palette in here that's very neutral. I do have this dark kind of terracotta brown color that I have on the couch, on the picture frame, in my pillows, and things like that. And so you can carry that color throughout. Also, you could do a metallic finish. So maybe you have a black or a brass or a shiny chrome and use that in several places in the room to have a cohesive look to your room. You also can do something to add contrast very intentionally. So you can use maybe a weathered wood coffee table underneath a very modern and sleek chandelier to add a lot of contrast that's going to add a ton of interest and wow factor to your room. Another key trick that designers use to help incorporate different styles into a room is trying to have one vintage piece in every room. So that could be maybe a side table, maybe it's a coffee table, maybe it is a beautiful chair. So you can incorporate one vintage piece into your room and mix that with more modern styles to give that mixed, eclectic feel. Now we've talked about 5 rules that you can definitely break if you want to. There is one rule that I found that is relatively obscure and a lot of designers love to use it. It's a secret trick to making homes feel more high-end, more expensive, and more luxurious. But first, if you want to learn how to decorate your home like a designer, make sure you hit subscribe because that's what we're all about here at Penny Modern. Let's wrap up with a secret rule that a lot of people overlook, but designers absolutely swear by. And this is called always use negative space. It sounds fancy, but it's honestly one of the most powerful tools that you can have in your design tool belt and when you're designing your home. So what is it? Negative space is basically the space that's around your furniture and decor where there's nothing there. And it's the breathing room that really makes everything feel very intentional as well as very calm. Think of it like a picture frame that is matted with a background. So the space around the picture, the white part, actually helps you focus on the picture itself, right? If you didn't have this and you just had the frame immediately around the picture, it would feel cramped and cluttered. So that's the same thing with your home. If you fill every space with decor or personal items or collections, it's gonna be hard for your eye to find a place to rest. And even according to Architectural Digest, they say that negative space is the secret weapon of interior designers. Here's what you should do instead of having a lot of tchotchkes and too much decor. You can leave one wall intentionally blank, and that will give a lot more space. You do not have to decorate every single wall in your home, believe it or not. You definitely don't want to overcrowd your shelves. If you have bookcases or any kind of shelving, you want to make sure that there is space in between each of the items. And you want to edit and then edit again. What's not adding something to the design of your room is actually taking things away from the design, because it's going to make it feel more cluttered and chaotic. Using negative space is not about stark minimalism. It's really about creating a curated space that gives room for each object in the room to really shine. Now that you know which design rules that you can definitely break, don't you want to know which design trends are a failure in real life and maybe not the easiest to clean, or maybe they're just going to be out of style really quickly? Then you've got to watch this next video right here. And also, don't forget to download your free room makeover planner at pennymodern.com/freebies, and I'll see you in the next video.